Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Deceptor Lab. I'm your boy Freezius, and today I just want to talk a little bit about the game's newest combat bot, and that's just gonna be Shattered Glass Ravage. And brand new to the game, just introduced in the newsletter. And honestly, I think he's gonna be a pretty good combat bot. Really takes a lot to sell me on companion type bots, but I'll run through some gameplay with him a little bit, let you see some of the things that I'm seeing, especially like I got to play test him this past week, and honestly it was pretty fun. But I'll walk you through what I think the good and the bad aspects are in regards to Shattered Glass Ravage. In addition to that, so I was talking to some of the people on my Discord server, and I've been taking a lot of suggestions, and I've been trying to run with those suggestions. But one of the things that I was looking at was just doing a couple of videos on the combat bots as a whole. So in addition to doing my review on Shattered Glass Ravage, I'm going to also go take a look at I'm going to try to break this into several segments. So this first part is going to be on Legacy 1, and then somewhere down the line I'll actually do multiple different videos. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at tonight. But before we do, I want to go into this week's newsletter. Alright, so this week we are going to be in the third week of the saga. We got a 5-week saga that kind of coincide with Cyber Pass this go around. And as I already mentioned, Shattered Glass Steeljaw and Shattered Glass Ravage are going to be coming to the game. And this week's event is called When Worlds Collide. And so for that one, it's going to be some pretty good prizes involved. 1,500, of the 5-star combat shards, 2,500 4-star shards, 5,000 3-star shards, and 50,000 premium crystal shards, along with the G1 G Metal Power Core chip, 3 G Metal Power Core chips, and up to 7 gold Power Core chips, and then 200,000 each of combat spark, and then just regular spark. Honestly, this event got kind of controversial this week just because, it started off as a 1 million point event. This is what they, what Space Ape had put on the event schedule the entire time. And then it changed to a 750,000 point event. And a lot of people were excited. It's always good if you can make something a little bit easier. But it started off with the first time they changed it, it was 750k, and then we had like 300,000 in the sparks. So then it got bumped back up to a 1 million point event. And so to say the least, Discord seemed to be kind of in an uproar about it all week long. Honestly, I don't mind the 1 million point event. I just wish we could have planned a little bit better when you're trying to put together coordinate just moving people around to get the 1 million point events. So either way, the prizes are really good. You got your typical event battle zones, and we already kind of talked about the prizes, but you can just kind of see how they're laid out there on the chart. Alright, so also earlier in the week, Space Ape introduced Shattered Glass Jetfire and Shattered Glass Thundercracker. And so you can see some of their art and this is what they're going to look like. Now, I know when I was talking to a lot of my Decepticon buddies, we were a little not pleased with the appearance of Shattered Glass Thundercracker. Now, I never really read any of those books, so I didn't know that that's what he looked like, but that is what he looks like. And I actually had someone show me like just different pictures of the Shattered Glass toys and how Thundercracker looked in there. So that is what he looks like. So that's what he looks like in the game, and I think it's primarily because it's a busy color scheme with Shattered Glass Thundercracker. So Yeah, so he's coming to the game. I actually am looking at him in play testing right now, and we'll see how it goes, man. I said I haven't really done enough testing with him to make an accurate description, an accurate opinion of him. But I said, you know how I am. I like to try to dig and find the best out of anything that I can, see if there's any value there. So I'll look forward to that going ahead and looking at Shatterglass Thundercracker. As we already mentioned a couple of times, new combat bots coming to the game, and this is what they look like. So on the top there, you got your Shatterglass Steeljaw, and then for us on the con side, we get Shatterglass Ravage, and that's what he looks like. And so, the biggest thing with him is that you're gonna have some rockets that get shot out of basically out of his back, and every 20 seconds he's gonna shoot 8 of them, and he's also gonna cover a particular area in smoke, which is kind of be like Cutthroat a little bit, where you get some ability. That ability is gonna block some of the damage that your team is receiving, and that'll last for 5 seconds, and then we'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into gameplay, because I think there are some concerns that the playtesters had, primarily about Ravage. Kind of like when you look at the original Ravage that we had in the Legacy 1 combat pack, then running away from and just running into danger at certain times, and then just somewhere down the line we'll talk about it. There were a lot of concerns. So if you read the newsletter, you can see here that a few of us in the playtester circle had our thoughts about it. I'm not gonna read through all of those, just because I made comments in there. I'm gonna tell you specifically what I said, but I know Texas Hammer, who was actually the one that came up with the idea for the bot. Now, within certain parameters, because Space Ape typically gives us, they give us they give us kind of like not a complete blank sheet, but they'll tell us, hey man, this is the kind of bot we're gonna have. It's gonna be a companion style bot. He's gonna have rockets that shoot out, and what else would you like to see done to him? And so Texas Hammer came up with the idea, hey man, let's give him a smoke cloud, and then he's real good with numbers, so he said, well, this is what I want. This is what the health should look like. This is what the DPS should look like. And then we play tested them, and then you always got to balance a little bit when you play testing, because sometimes you might overpower or underpower a bot, but in this case, I think for the most part we got it right. And so yeah, I think it's a pretty good bot. A couple of these guys think it's a good bot, but and you can actually see my comments in there about it a little bit also. But I'm not gonna read through all that. I'll just go down here to where Texas Hammer has some clips of when he was testing, and you can see the protection barrage, and you can also see you can see a little bit of a picture of Shatterglass Steeljaw in combat, but we don't need to look at that too heavily, because we're going to watch some actual gameplay here in a minute. Other game updates and information. So the Titan Tree catch-up thing, I think that's pretty good. That was in the last newsletter. I was a little bit irritated with the catch-up mechanism for 4-star Overlord, particularly because that's $99 US, to go buy a combiner, and there's a 5-star available already, and there are other methods to secure this 4-star. I felt like that was a bit overpriced, to the point that I didn't even want to use the newsletter in my last video. I had already read the newsletter, and I was just like, yeah, I'm not talking about that. I was a little irritated at the time of my stream, so I didn't talk about it. But the 3-star, that's priced properly. Not $10 isn't bad for that. But so they're still pushing that. I wouldn't buy it. I don't advise any of you to buy it, but it's an option available if you want to. Alright, other exciting news that we got this week is about the new changes to the leaderboard. So in this particular leaderboard, which is going to be at the end of this saga in week 5, they are going to give the top 5 in the leaderboard. They'll be getting the new Shattered Glass Jetfire Shattered Glass Thundercracker as a 5-star level. So, and I'll be honest with you. So I talked to a bunch of people, and they were upset because they felt like, hey man, you know, something like this is just pandering to the whales. Something like this is essentially taking all your cash players and just giving them more benefits. And honestly, I'm not upset by that. I mean, like, if guys are coming there taking hundreds of dollars and putting it into the leaderboard and getting these outrageous scores. I mean, the 4 stars, they get them. I mean, they're not going to use those 4 stars at that level. You know, they typically got a bunch, if not all of the 4 stars, and honestly got a huge collection of 5 stars. I mean, I find it appropriate. Realistically speaking, they probably just getting the 5-star a little bit earlier than the rest of us, should we choose to go for that 5-star at some point. So I'm all for it. We're testing the 4 and the 5-star right now, and yeah, I mean, that'll be one of those topics. That'll be one of those bots that will be good for somebody. I feel like, I mean, at least it's in terms of how rewards go. All right, newsletter goes on to talk about content creators. Sunstreaker Waza had a pretty good video with Texas Hammer on rating all the warrior class bots. If you hadn't seen it, they got the link there in the newsletter. And I don't think that I saw this one, but I said the Arrow DJ Hart. I'm not sure which video this is of his, because I typically watch his whenever he brings anything out. But he's got a new video that's up there on the newsletter as well. All right, community corner. We got some fan art and some toys down here. So always good to see. They got a couple of nice little collections down there. And then we get the saga schedule. So like I said, right now we are in week 3. So 2 weeks to go into the big leaderboard. Next week we get a Prime Core event. So looking forward to that. Always trying to get an opportunity to get some more G medals. But honestly, I think everybody at this point is really excited about this new leaderboard. So I know that's a good prize that they're going to put out there for those top 5 teams. So I'm interested to see who gets that. And then that is the end of the news, as they are going to have a Twitch stream. And that is it for the news. Alright, so I'm going to go to the battlefield a little bit. And I want to talk a little bit about Shattered Glass Ravage. And so let's first off, that's the wrong spot. Let's first off go to the tooltip and everything for the bot. So we actually got to play test, and I'm on the play tester server now, but we actually got to play test the 4-star and the 5-star. Now, I did not power up these bots really at all. Well, at least I didn't power up the 5-star. I went ahead and started playing with the 4-star at first, and the reason for that is I always like to look at the bot at the lowest level now and just see how much growth they have during the time period that I'm actually playing. And so earlier I actually had my 4-star at level 1, and then what I did is I wound up flipping it into I increased it into level 7, which is typically where I'm going to play it before you have to start trying to ration out your combat spark. But anyway, looking at this tooltip, is saying Shattered Glass Ravage can cause up to 244 damage per second. Every 20 seconds he shoots 8 rockets, covering the area in smoke and blocking 13% damage for 5 seconds. So that's what it looks like on level 1 on the 5-star. And let's look at my level 7 for the 4-star. Yeah, so he's already up to, let me look at that again. So yeah, he's up to 266 damage per second, and so that's 7 levels. It's so yeah, it's quite a difference between the. So yeah, that 5-star is actually really powerful. I used it, but I left it on level 1 just because I wanted to try to see that in the lower levels. But yeah, I mean, so you're getting, if I could carry this 4-star up to level 8, then it'll get 26% protection and 281 damage. So I mean, overall, it's pretty good. Definitely looks good on paper. I'm gonna go ahead and do some gameplay testing for you. Alright, so I'm gonna take myself out of the screen, and so in this particular case, I actually got my SG Ravage. I got him on Impactor, and so I'll run it a couple of times just to see, just so you can see the gameplay aspect of it, because it's actually pretty cool. I think that he does pretty good. It's like an additional gunner if you look at it from that aspect. So right here, and I'll zoom in a little bit, and you can see Ravage just goes up there and just starts shooting right over those walls. So I know that's a big deal for really any level of the game, and different, just different base layouts to get him to be able to shoot over those walls. But you can see he takes care of that storage by himself. Not a whole lot of effort for that. But yeah, it means, I know one of the concerns that some of the play testers had. Well, first off, during testing, SG Ravage was running into walls a lot, and the developers were able to make a fix. But now you can see the SG Ravage is in there throwing down some smoke. It doesn't last too long. 5 seconds later it's gone. But it's a chance for you to try to defend your team, and it's also an opportunity for, if you are one of those players that's using Cutthroat as one of your main bots, then you might be able to save a little bit of his special ability by using smoke from SG Ravage. Alright, so he made it to the back half of the base before he finally got taken out, so not too bad. But overall, I mean, it's pretty good bot. Like, I mean, I got this one all up to level 7 on the 4-star version. But I mean, he didn't run away this time. Now I will say, the first time I tested SG Ravage, he ran all the way up the battlefield, and I was like, oh man, this isn't good. But he hasn't done it to me since, and so that's been encouraging for me. And the fact that he only bumped into walls once, but then the developers put a fix out there for him. So I said, all right, well, maybe that really is fixed. I hadn't seen it since, but yeah. So I just want to go over, before I go run another test, I want to go over some of what I perceive to be the advantages and disadvantages. So I definitely like for SG Ravage, I definitely like the gunner aspect of it. You got an extra opportunity to shoot over walls, so I can easily see, like, a lot of people that like to make their own gunners out of jets, particularly by using Cratermaker on their jets. And then if you add this as an additional element to that, then I'd imagine it's going to be pretty decent damage on most bases. So as a matter of fact, let me do that. I will actually put him into the play mode, I put them into a battle with a couple of jets that are armed with Cratermaker. I actually had Cratermaker on. I believe I have Cratermaker on Cutthroat and Blast Off, but I can't remember if that's my live account or if that's here on my playtest account that I have him. So let me see what I actually have. Alright, so zoom in. Oh no, I got Singe on Cutthroat on this one. Oh yeah, I took everything off of these guys. So I'm actually going to exit out. I'm actually going to exit out, and I'm going to put these combat bots on Cutthroat and Blast Off. Let's see if SG Ravage helps them move anything any faster. So let's see. So I don't need that. I need. Oh yeah, I do need that. So yeah, that was one of the. That is one of the things that I actually was happy about, was just getting an additional gunner, essentially, by having Ravage. So I was happy about that. And I was also happy, I was pretty happy overall with the DPS and health on the bot. So nothing too crazy. A disadvantage that I was looking at for Shattered Glass Ravage was, like I said, he did run away that one time on me. I guess it happened more times for some of the other play testers. But I also, one of the things I like, so the smoke is a really good ability, right? It's always good to have additional protection. But one of the things that was bothersome for me was that, I don't know, honestly, I felt like when SG Ravage was targeting, I felt like a lot of times he was targeting defenses, and the defenses were the ones that were getting covered in smoke, as opposed to actually covering like the actual team. And I think that when you're trying to cover the team, I think that it does it more closer to the launch pad, like right after you get off the shuttle. I think it's more likely to actually work then. And it's primarily because, there are different things in the way. Buildings are in the way, walls might be in the way, and your team is delayed a little bit of moving up the field because it's approaching those things. And SG Ravage is also approaching those buildings, so it kind of makes him stay back while he's sending off those rockets. All right, let's see. Let me see if I can get me another. So I got 2-star. Yeah, I put this 3-star Cratermaker on there. Oh no, not on him. I'm gonna put him on Cutthroat. Yeah, I actually hit the wrong button by accident. And let's see. Yeah, so while I'm equipping my combat bot, let's go ahead and stick him on Cutthroat. And I just want to see if there's a noticeable difference for me. And I didn't try this when I was testing, but I just want to see what it would look like having multiple makeshift gunners on one run. So that'll be interesting because, a lot of times, actually I'll do this because typically I run Onslaught on some of these teams. Let me see if I can have essentially 4 different gunners on the team. Actually, you know what? I'll do one better. I'm going to take Tunbot off. I'm going to put this 5-star SG Ravage on on Onslaught and see how that works. Because one thing that's really, I feel like, is a positive for Ravage, whether it's regular Ravage or Shattered Glass Ravage, is that you can equip them pretty much any bot. So that is one of the advantages of the companion type bots. I'm not really a huge fan of the companion type bots, if I'm gonna be honest with you, just because you know a lot of times they're more difficult to control. They're more difficult to find, like, hey, what's the perfect fit, as opposed to, I know that it's beneficial to do like Cratermaker on Jets. I know that it's I know that it's pretty good. That, like, if you pair your Quintus cores with your Terror-Daxtyl and put them on like an Impactor or a Sentius Malice or something like that. Like, I understand that it's not as clear cut when you're dealing with one of the combat bots like this one, when you have a companion style combat bot. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stick Impactor in the front, and I'm gonna bring both of my Jets, and we're gonna have 2 SG Ravages on the floor, because one of the concerns, oh yeah, that actually looks good already, but one of the concerns that the playtesters had was that people would use multiple of these Shattered Glass Ravage characters. Like, maybe they go get the 2-star, the 3-star, and the 4-star, and the 5-star, and just drop all of them on a map, so that it's constantly covered in smoke. Which, that wasn't really an issue that the Space Ape team thought would be was going to be something problematic. But I can't lie, I do like looking at these guys with all the Cratermakers and the SG Ravage out there. I mean, it does actually look like, for a second, that you just had everything jumping over walls out there. You know, it does become a problem when you actually come up to a wall. But other than that, yeah, it's not too bad. Alright, so I'll go ahead and get out of there. Alright. So yeah, overall I think it's a pretty good bot. I like having, like, essentially was an additional gunner for me out there in the combat bot. I think it's got a lot of utility. I think that it's got good damage and good health, and I think the smoke is a really good bonus. It works really well early. I feel like early in the battle, sometimes as the battle lingers on, I've seen SG Ravage have a tendency to get into trouble rushing forward. But I do feel like it's easily managed. If you go bring a rushing tank to get up there in front of them, or if you let instead of spamming your abilities, if you let your bots go forward, then all of those things can be helpful in that particular context. So that's what I think about SG Ravage. I would advise anybody to go ahead and try to go for them, honestly. I think it's going to be a pretty good bot. I think it's going to be the premier. Well, you know what? I take that back. I don't want to talk too much, because I did say this is part 1 of my series about combat bots. But out of the minion combat bots, this is probably going to wind up being my favorite one, or close to it, because you still got Vertebrake out there, and Vertebrake is just ready to go, very usable right out of the box also. So between those two are some of my favorite, because I don't really like minions that much, and I know a lot of people will probably get mad at me for not including Glit on this list, and Glit is very good, but I think that's probably like 1 tier down from these two, from Vertebrake and SG Ravage. So that's the way I'm looking at it. But alright, so let me go back to the game screen. And I want to go take a look at Legacy 1 combat bots. And the reason why I want to do that is because I want to go do a review on them as well and give my opinions and my feedback about those. Alright, so I think at this point these guys have been around long enough that everybody knows who's in Legacy 1, but in case you forgot or in case you don't know, these are the 5 combat bots that, and this is what we started out with when they first started bringing them out in the game. Catgut, Blowpipe, Terror-Daxtyl, Ravage, and Cratermaker. And so I'm going to start off by talking about one of these bots. I actually got them maxed out in a 4-star, but I'm going to look at Catgut. And so really all it is for Catgut, he starts off, when you equip him, he starts off as a sword, and he increases that bot's normal damage by 17.5%. Now, that's always going to be ideological difference for me that I'm gonna have from a lot of people, because if I'm increasing damage by a percentage, then one of the things that I want to look at is, well, how much DPS is this bot dealing out? And so a lot of times when I look at Catgut, they got a couple of tankier special class bots. You can use them on Sentius Malice, you can use them on Avocado Megatron, you can use them on different special class bots like that, where they actually do have the high damage to support the use of Catgut, and that's cool. That's one of those directions that I would advise people to go in for Catgut, with the exception that with Sentius Malice, I think that when you use a sword or an axe on him, I think he has a higher tendency to bump in the walls instead of moving up the battlefield. So that's problematic, and that's more of a bug problem as opposed to an actual problem with the bot itself. But it is a problem that exists within trying to use that bot. That said, most of the bots that you can equip Catgut on are tanks, and even though they keep, there's this huge push to always make tanks stronger and stronger and stronger, and I get it, but I just feel like the tank's purpose is to have high DPS and try to soak up some of that damage for you. So that, for me, that kind of restricts the options. And when I did take away a couple of points from Catgut, that was one of the reasons. Is the bots that it's equipable to. There's some dynamic bots that you can equip Catgut to, but it's also a lot of warrior class bots that you're not really going to get as much damage out of Catgut while using those types of bots. So for me, I started off using this one with Malice. It was kind of cut and dry for me until I realized that I felt like the sword part was causing him to bump into walls, and then that's restricting them from doing other things he should be doing on the battlefield, even though it was relatively manageable. But if I don't want to have to manage something if I don't have to. So what I did is I wound up moving this one, as you can see in the picture, to Ramjet, just because he's one of the mainstays usually on my war team, and he has high damage. Alright, let's see what else. So overall, I think if I'm rating them from 1 to 10, I think I give Catgut maybe like a 8.5. He's flirting with maybe like a solid 9. Just because I do like the DPS. The DPS is inline damage, so that helps. And then at the end of all of that, if your bot dies, which I do use them in sacrifice techniques a lot of times, that robotic feline mode does have pretty high health, so it carries them pretty high up there on my list. And carrying them to 8.5 is would be probably my rating, somewhere between 8.5 and 9 out of 10. Alright, the next one on this list that I also have maxed out as a 4-star is going to be Blowpipe. Now, back about a month ago when I recorded my video, my combat bot video on Singe, which I got, I had a lot of blowback just because people don't like Blowpipe and they didn't like Singe. And I think the issue that people are having is that when you look at a bot like Blowpipe, the first thing they starts talking about is walls. Eight times more damage to walls. And at this stage in the game, walls weren't as relevant. People were trying to go set up more traps to try to create pathways for you, and so as a result, that made the bot Singe less desirable. And so Space Ape went in and they moved some things around, and they decided that they wanted to go use a range increase on Blowpipe, because one of the big issues is that Blowpipe was that close range bot, and so even though there was a lot of damage, you can use some flames to go into 75% of the bot's DPS, and the overall in this case with a maxed out four star up to level 10, it's 22% additional damage. So for me, I tried using that on some of the jets back when he still had the real short range, and I actually tried using it on Blast Off, which I got him in a pretty high level, and I'll actually put it up there now so you can see it for yourself. Now I'm not saying that this is a good idea, because I take that back. I haven't tried to do it. I hadn't tried that pairing since they made the range change, but I do feel like, I wanted to go into his stats. Yeah, so the damage per second there is 879.8 with Blowpipe, 721.2 without. So it's a pretty good health jump, especially when you already had like a high damage bot. So that was the part that I really enjoyed about it. Now that they fixed the ranges, it's probably like a little bit better. Well, I know it's a little bit better based on some of the bots I have used it on, and they didn't always go run into the danger because of the close range. So yeah, honestly, I think when people kind of bag on Blowpipe, I think it's more so, it's not an attractive pick. It's not sexy to have a bot that's just going designed to go put damage, into walls. And historically, some of these bots, some of these wall buster bots, people are not as attracted to their powers as they are to other abilities within the game. So I get it, but at the same time, it's a lot of damage to try to overlook. For me, I don't know, man. Blowpipe for me, and I'm trying to think of how I want to rate him with the range addition, because the range addition was actually pretty significant. I mean, as far as development, not as far as range itself, but as far as developing the bot, I think that puts him, it may be a rating of like 7.5. Yeah, about 7.5 out of 10. Just because, he's not necessarily always targeting walls. I do like the flame damage. That's always a nice boost, but it's periodic. And so yeah, I think I'll stick with 7.5 out of 10 for Blowpipe. He's not as bad as people make him out to be. I use him. Obviously I'm not using him as much on this particular server, but I do use him, and I do like Singe as well, considering that he has a healing aspect on Singe. So yeah, about 7.5 I think is a good point for Blowpipe, given given some of the advantages and disadvantages. Alright, so my only, now on the test server I have Singe and SG Ravage, but in my live server the only 5-star combat that I have is Terror-Daxtyl, or Terror-Daxtyl is, and so tooltip for that: causes an earthquake, dealing 40% of the bot's DPS value, and that's what I got him at as a level 7 5-star. But the life drain is what really helps you out here. Now I will say the life drain is decent. At level 7 we're talking about upgrading to level 8 and now be a 10% life drain. So life drain is decent. I mean, you do have 40% of the bot's DPS value coming out in the earthquake. But honestly, like when I go look at a bot's damage, and I'm not necessarily, it's a nice to have for warriors to have high damage, but it's few and far between the ones that I'm just really expecting just like huge amounts of damage. Like Ramjet has a lot of damage and at the expense of health, and I don't use that on. Honestly, I use Terror-Daxtyl. I use him on like tarantulas. I use him on pretty much any bot that's got like this gonna have. I like to use it on tarantulas because I like to, double up on the life drain. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good way to go about that. I also like Terror-Daxtyl. I like the life drain on Impactor too with Terror-Daxtyl. So that's actually because I have the 5-star Impactor that I got in the video a couple of weeks ago, and I added Terror-Daxtyl to him so that he can constantly do life drain, and then I added the Alchemist Prime Core to him, so it's constantly healing as I go through battle, especially with that damage reduction that I have. And like I said earlier, I would use this one on Sentius Malice quite a bit if it didn't cause him to bump into walls as frequently as it does for whatever the bug that they're having a problem with is. So it kind of makes it a little bit more limited on pairings. But either way, I think it's still a pretty good combat. Yeah, I think I'll give him a 7.5 also, just because of the limited pairings that actually make sense for the bot, and honestly, the fact that it took one of my favorite bots and makes them like not usable or almost unusable. So yeah, I put them in that same neighborhood of 7.5. Now the next bot we're gonna look at is gonna be the OG Ravage. And the original Ravage. So the key thing here in Ravage is, when you were a fan of the cartoon, you were a fan of like G1 or any of the other iterations of Transformers, and everybody's a fan of Ravage, in like from like a lore standpoint, and like just looking at the G1 cartoons and everything. And so that kind of made my expectations high for him, but then they introduced the concept of having the minion bot, and Ravage just started running all over the place. Granted, it was cool sometimes because he did turn invisible, and so sometimes he's not taking damage, and then sometimes he just pops up, triggers an outpost for you, and you don't have to worry about him. You don't have to worry about your team taking damage from that outpost. So that's actually one positive aspect of Ravage. And then there's the fact that like for me, if I use Thundercracker, and because Thundercracker has a really long range, if I go have Thundercracker attack anything that's within the range of an outpost bot, and I equip him with Ravage, Ravage can actually do the sacrifice instead of one of your bots. So that was, when I found that out, that was actually pretty cool. One of the other advantages for Ravage, I mean, he's, like I said earlier with the SG Ravage, I mean, they're pretty much applicable to just about any bot in the game. And the disappearing, like I said, that part's actually pretty cool as well. But I really hate how erratic this bot could be at times. You don't know where he's gonna go the majority of the time, and I don't see, whereas, and this is the problem that I've always had with the companion type bots, the minion type bots, is I don't see the benefit for any particular bot class. Like there are, like for example, and we're going to talk about him next, but we already said a couple of times, Cratermaker is good on jets. You can make whatever you want to make into a gunner, but that definitely benefits one particular bot class more than the others. And so I don't see that when I look at a bot like Ravage. I don't see that same effect. I don't see where it's saying, hey, if you use this type of bot, if you use this class of bot, or if there's a specific ability or something that pairs well with that, I just don't really see that in Ravage. And with him being erratic as he is now don't get me wrong, he can usually last quite a little bit in battle, because he will turn invisible at some point and not get targeted by defenses. But other than that, not a whole lot of positives. If I had to go look for a rating for him, I'd say that's probably about a 6 out of 10 for me. And it's hard to say that, because this is a really classic bot. This is like one of our favorite bots. Looking at the G1 series and everything like that. So, but yeah, it's a pretty low rating from me, just because I don't see the utility that I see in a lot of other combat bots. And finally, the last one we want to look at, saving the best for last. Another one that I've got completely maxed out in the 4-star, and that's Cratermaker. And simple enough, shoots 5 rockets, each dealing damage equal to 35.3% of the bot's base DPS value. And I honestly think this is one of the game-changing bots in the game. And I'll tell you a story real quick. When I first started playing the game, and well, this wasn't when I first started playing the game, when Combats came out. I had been playing for a little while, and I was trying to learn my different strategies and everything. And Cratermaker came out, and I got really lucky when Cratermaker came out. So I got Cratermaker in a 2-star, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. It's 2-star, so you're not too excited. And then later on, I got the 4-star. And so now, it's one of those things where I was curious at first, but now, it's like that line in Django. He's like, you had my curiosity, but now you had my attention. Like, by the time I got that 4-star Cratermaker, like the first or second week it was out, well, now Cratermaker had my attention, because, and nobody had told me this, I didn't really have as many, I didn't want to bother everybody getting advice all the time, so I didn't have as many advisors as I do now that try to talk to me about certain things and certain tactics. But I said, you know what I'm going to try to do? I'm going to try to go put a bunch of these Cratermakers on different bots that I have and turn them all into these gunners, but with higher health. And so I did that. And then as I started playing around with it, and I was still struggling a little bit at first, I started playing around with it. And then I got a 3-star. So now I got 3 of these things sitting up here. And I said, well, I'm going to put all 3 of them on one team. I'm going to put all 3 of them on one team, and it's going to be a fun time. And so then I started winning wars. I just started walking every single base. And then I said, you know what? I started hearing about these tactics, and I started seeing people saying, hey man, we'll just add some healers in the back of that, and it's good to go. And that's when I started making my transition. The first time I started feeling like I was making a transition into a pretty decent player. So all that being said, when I look at Cratermaker, I look at it as a game changing bot, right? This is a very positive bot for just really, this is what set the tone, I feel like, for combat bots, and what made us need to say, hey, we got to make them even better, because people are going to want to use Cratermaker, and they're going to want to use them on the jets. And I tell you, for a long time, I had a lot of special class bots coming up. I would not put Cratermaker on my jets, and the only jet that I was really using a lot at the time was Blast Off. That was my first 5-star, and I was like, well, I fly my jet a lot, so I don't want to take away from, you know, the ground damage, the normal damage. So then that's when I started getting crafty, and that's when I brought Cutthroat into the mix. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to deploy his smoke some, but I'm not going to fly him a whole lot. I'm not going to fly him like 6 times in the battle or anything like that. So then I put him on him. And for a long time, I actually had Cratermaker on Astro Train that I only really had on my team because he was, I think he might have been my first 4-star. So once I started getting into a little bit of a rotation, I started rotating them around to bots that made more sense. I did eventually wind up putting them on Blast Off because I got tired of that time, like I was telling you, that I put Blowpipe on Blast Off when he still had the short range and I was getting killed. Yeah, I didn't like that. So what I started doing was rotating a lot of my combats around until I got the current configuration I have, which honestly really works for me pretty well. So yeah, that's what, and I'll actually show you how I have, before I finish here, I'll show you how I have all my combat bots paired. You know, just like looking, actually I already showed that in my war team video, so you got to see a little bit of those pairings. But yeah, Cratermaker, definitely a game-changing bot. The only kind of, if you can call that a disadvantage sometimes, I do feel like when you using some of those attacks on like some of those gunner type bots, I feel like the rate of fire is a little bit slow. But at the same time, if they sped it up, and then the bot would be a pretty overpowered combat bot. So I personally, if I'm rating Cratermaker, I'm gonna give him a 9 out of 10, just for the impact that he's made on the game, for the fact that you essentially took one bot class that was completely different and really not as heavily considered as good in the game, and you changed them into something that was relevant again at the time, because those aerial class bots weren't being used that heavily at that time period. And then they became an opportunity to say, hey, well, we can make these guys that's got a little bit more health, we can make them better than the gunners. And so then Cratermaker kind of changed the game a little bit. And so yeah, I'm always going to give that particular combat bot a lot of props. Alright, so that's all I'm going to cover today. Like I said, I just want to do short review, talk advantages, disadvantages. I think with the combat series, I'm probably not going to show a lot of different gameplay videos per se, unless it's like one of the ones like I had today for Shattered Glass Ravage. I do actually, let's take a look at him before I go. Let's take a look at him and how he looks with his combat, as a combat bot attached to, you know, his the main bot. So like I said, I had him on Impactor. And I probably zoomed in a little bit too close, but you can see him down there. That's what he looks like. So not too bad. Oh, wait a minute, I didn't put it on the screen. Hold on, I gotta switch screens. Alright, that's what he looks like. But yeah, so trying not to get Impactor in there. So yeah, but yeah, honestly, I'm excited for the Shattered Glass Ravage, and I'm honestly excited to go give my reviews on a lot of the different combat bots. So I'll do another one of these videos. It'll probably be like another 2 or 3 weeks before I do another one on the combat bot series. It's always a lot of new topics that I want to talk about during my videos, and I still got a long laundry list of bots that players on my Discord server want me to do for the con highlight of the week. So I try to start handling those in bunches. But yeah, man, it's a lot of new stuff to cover. You know, obviously with the addition of the new bots at the end of the saga, that's going to wind up being a review for that. So I'm looking forward to it. It's a lot of new stuff that I'm looking forward to in the game, and I think that I'm going to have plenty of content to keep pushing out to you guys. That said, if you like my content, go to the, well, first off, like, subscribe, share if you got friends or whatever that you think, especially Decepticon friends, because you know it's only a handful of content creators out here that are doing Decepticon content. Like, I personally, the reason why I started this, I got kind of tired of always having to look at it and they use the name of a bot and it's the Autobot's name, and sometimes I forget who the counterpart is and I have to go look it up, and I'm trying to watch. You know, that kind of started getting on my nerves, so I just wanted to do something where Decepticons could kind of come out there and hang out. But yeah, like, subscribe, share, and if you want to check me out on social media, all of my links are in the About section, and they're also my line ID and my Discord ID and my Instagram are on my outro. So other than that, yeah, I mean, great event coming up this weekend. So I would advise that everybody go out there and try to knock that out. Try to get the whole million if possible, because I know personally I'm gonna open up a new 5-star combat bot this weekend. So I'm gonna record that too, because I know last time the Crystal Kraken that I had for my 5-star bot was pretty popular. I think that I'm gonna go do one for the 5-star combat bot as well. So that'll be kind of like a surprise thing. It'll be impromptu. So whenever I actually get the shards this weekend, look forward to that. Or if I don't get to it, then I might just post it on Monday during the con highlight of the week. So I still haven't decided who I'm going to do the con highlight on the week for this upcoming Monday. But you know, that's always going to be, I drop those videos Mondays at 6 Eastern. So that's the time to go look for those. But if you got a suggestion for con highlight of the week, go ahead and drop it in the comments. If you haven't already signed up to my Discord, that's another place where I always take suggestions for my videos. But other than that, I think I'm gonna go ahead and call it a stream, or call it a video, call it a day. So have a good weekend out there on this event. Really big event, really big prizes, and I'll see all you guys out there on the battlefield. Freezius out.